September 20th. So are we at the fall equinox? Pretty close here. So equal time, daylight and nighttime. So I'm going to read, sorry, I'm dropping my papers. I'm going to read some comments to you, Larry, that we've got in here, and then we can let you get started. We've got, I forgot to turn my phone off. Ken from Pittsburgh has been following you since a Jim Quinn interview in the 90s on WRRK in Pittsburgh. And so he's had quite a few comments. He said, you told Jim that the Clintons never go away. And he thinks we may have reached the point of no return unless the militia is called in with military support to arrest the traitors. And he's thinking that if we win the House but lose the Senate, we'll know for sure the fix is in because a lame duck House will impeach and hand the case. Oops, he lost Larry. Hang on. Yeah,
I'm back, I think. You were buffering or something, and then it went off. So I heard you say Ken in Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay. So we'll go back up. Let me scroll back up. So Ken in Pittsburgh, listen to you with Jim Quinn.
Right. Jim and Rhodes.
Yeah.
Jim and Rhodes. I remember well.
Okay. WRRK in Pittsburgh in the 90s. You told Jim the Clintons never go away. He said that was spot on. And he said, I'm afraid we've reached the point of no return unless the militia is called in with military support to arrest the traitors. And he thinks if we win back the House but lose the Senate, we'll know for sure the fix is in because a lame duck House will impeach and hand over the case to the new Democrat-controlled Senate.
He's got a point. If we lose the Senate, it's very possible.
Yeah, that's kind of a scary.
Even if, and as Ken says, even if miraculously, which it shouldn't happen, if Trump wins and the Democrats lose the House, but then gain the Senate, that's an odd combination. But if that were to happen, Ken would be absolutely right.
Yeah.
They would rush impeachment to get it done before the new House would convene in the new Senate. So yes, he's right. What's next?
Okay. Barb had sent me a text before and said that the last 4 days, this is Barb in Kentucky. The last 4 days, the Federal Reserve has been injecting money into the money markets and banks are bidding heavily for the funds from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Let's see, they're in a crunch with overnight funding markets and they're calling this a Fed repo. They started bidding at 75 billion. They're now up to 350 billion. And she's wondering, are they crashing the market right now? And I noticed this morning an interview, something that somebody said that Hillary claimed that she has an October surprise planned. And I don't know if she's talking about October next year, just before the election, or Barb is, wondering if that October surprise is right now when they're going to just try and get him out of the way immediately since they're so far along in what they want to do.
I don't know, and it would be tough to speculate. If she's hinting of an October surprise, it might be, and this is just a might be, she's looking that she might announce to run for president, which I doubt, but that's a possibility. As far as crashing the market now, it's very conceivable that they could be starting to lay the foundations of doing it. They could. But I'm not sure, so don't hold me to that yet. We'll know soon enough. I'll let you know as soon as some of that materializes. But I have meetings today after the program. If I can get help from people in this show, and I do need you to hear me, I'm I'm very, very sick. If I could get your help today, I need it desperately quick. But I'll be in some meetings, teleconference meetings that may shed a lot of light on that subject.
So, Paul, I know I appreciate your wishes that Larry feels better, but you can hear that. So that's in our interference with our phones. We got quite an issue going on here. So, yes, and we definitely, Jojo, have to hope that Trump can pull Republican senators back in. And
Sorry about that. Got knocked off with a call. I'm back.
Yeah. It's Jojo says we have to hope Mr. Trump pulls a lot of Republican senators back in, and I was just starting to say yes. The issue with Lindsey Graham as to whether he is supporting Trump right now until his election and what he will do after that is, that's a concern I have.
Yeah. Yes, Lindsey will go back to being himself, I fear, if we're not careful. But he, at least right now, is on the Trump wagon, and that's where we need him to be at present.
Yep.
What else?
That's all for. I heard an interview today with somebody named Sam Honold. He's a missionary to Central and South America, and they were talking about Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner running for president of Argentina, and that she appears to be an evil twin for Hillary, and that if she wins, it'll be devastating for relations between the U.S. and South and Central America, because we're going back to the days of communist takeover.
Well, I don't think that is very likely to happen, but it's possible, but that's a long shot at the present time. That's at the present time.
Yeah. James says that he heard the Saudis did the attack themselves, and it was a deep state false flag to try and start war with Iraq. So what do you think?
James, that's absolutely not true. Not true. Iran backed the Houthis, and China backed Iran. My opinion, I've got to put it in my opinion at this point. But it is certainly better than just my opinion. But this is an effort, an all-out effort from China to try to force Trump to be in trouble and stop him from pressuring them with his sanctions. So, no, that's not true. It was not Saudi Arabia, and it was not deep state. You have Iran being used. Y'all, excuse me, I'm just very sick. So if y'all can help, do it now, please. We need it. Iran is being used by China. And for that, they're doing everything they can to try to force President Trump into doing what will be considered a first strike against Iran. And as all of you know, President Trump has made a firm commitment that he does not want to engage any further into wars into the Middle East. He's trying his best to get us out of what was there, not get another one started. Now, having said that, under provocation, there should be no doubt that he'll squash Iran like a bug if need be. But that's only when our national interests are put at risk, not Saudi Arabia's or anybody else's. He'll only do that, I believe, my opinion, he'll only do that when our national interests are at risk. You got anything else?
Yeah. Do you think bipartisanship is a dirty word in Congress lately? That's Paul.
Yeah, it ended. Technically, Paul, bipartisanship ended when Bill Clinton took office and the new system of governing came to Washington, which the system of governing I'm speaking of is basically the one that Bill Clinton brought with him from Arkansas, our system. There's no such thing as bipartisanship now. Number one, to have bipartisanship, you've got to have two different parties willing to work together. You don't have two different parties now. You've got one party. One. Now, you have some outliers that are conservative, true to the cause. You've got a few of those, but it's more, can there be cooperation between the few outliers and the deep staters? That's the question. And obviously the answer to that is no. This is all out high noon, folks, all out high noon. And if you dare to think anything else, you're just grossly mistaken. Anything else, Megan?
Didn't you tell Bill under the bridge that at high noon one of you guys was leaving town?
I did indeed. I told Bill Clinton. Actually, it was the day he was leaving Arkansas to go to Washington to be sworn in as president. I met him under the bridge on the Fanny Fox Freeway, which is the freeway that cuts across Little Rock, named after Fanny Fox because of the incident with Wilbur Mills and Fanny Fox, the hooker, that he was found with her and they were drunk and ran their car into a fountain. So it was under that bridge that I told Bill Clinton. Well, first off, he called me there. It was me and him and Buddy Young, and we met under the bridge so that he was sure nobody could hear us. And he was saying, look, I'm now president. There's nothing you can do to me anymore. So you need to go away. And if you go away, you know, we can take care of you and your family and you'll never have to worry again. And I responded basically by saying, Bill, we're going to meet at high noon. One day we will meet at high noon. And one of us is leaving town because one of us is lying and you know which one it is. And that was the last words I spoke to Bill Clinton. Fact, true story.
That story's in 28 Years to Nowhere.
Now, I excluded some expletives, but that's the bottom line of the story.
Well, if you hadn't, I would have as your editor anyway. So. I think you.
What else? What else?
Okay, are they, another James asked, are they using this whistleblower thing to dump Biden and use it as propaganda for Trump at the same time?
Read that again, hon. I couldn't understand you.
I'm not sure exactly what he means, but are they using this whistleblower thing to dump Biden and use it as propaganda for Trump at the same time?
Well, they're using it for propaganda to hurt Trump. I don't know, James, if they're doing anything to necessarily drop Biden, but I assure you they will be dropping Biden very soon, and it will be quite apparent. But this whole story of the phone call and the whistleblower, guys, I'm telling you, it's, well, I saw Trey Gowdy, and Trey Gowdy, who I don't agree with all to do something, but I heard him today, and I agree with him because he's saying basically what we said yesterday. One of the reasons behind not turning this whistleblower to that committee is because of Adam Schiff. And as Gowdy said, Pelosi needs to replace Schiff because Schiff has proven himself to be so biased, so out of control, that there is no way the Trump administration can work with that committee. You just can't do it. And like Gowdy said, if that information, which is top secret or presidential conversation, so I would consider that top secret, if that information were turned over to that committee, he said, what's his name? Schiff leaks like a sieve. It would be out in the public. And there may be something on that conversation or in that conversation that should not be made public. But once again, I remind you, he's president of the United States. The kind of thing that he could have done on a phone call to a foreign leader that could be considered to be impeachable is very small. There's very limited areas that he could have gotten into that could cause that. And from what I understand, and I believe I know pretty much what's in it, that's not there. But there is information that could be harmful to the intelligence community if, just in the interest of trying to hurt President Trump, Schiff lets it out. It could hurt the intelligence community. So I agree with President Trump citing presidential privilege and stopping it. It's all the ball's in Pelosi's court. She must. If she does not want to continue the Democrats being made absolute fools of, she is going to have to get Schiff out of that chair position on that committee. She's got to do it. What else you got?
Okay. Give me a sec. Several questions came in more than I realized while I was taking notes. Hang on a sec. Let me scroll back up.
By the way, nobody's dinging the PayPal. If you would, please ding the hell out of it today. It's really important. I need your help. I've got very important stuff I've got to deal with, having to do with what we need for the country. I just need your help to get through it. What you got?
Okay, if the Saudis didn't do it to themselves, how were they able to hit the exact spot in the refinery where nobody was killed? And you've already said you think that Iran helped the Houthis do it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when you look at the combination of China and Iran having to do with it, their intelligence sources would probably be well capable of pulling that kind of stunt off. Do I believe the Houthis had that kind of expertise in intelligence? No. But between Iran and, thank you, Joyce. Joyce said 20. Thank you, dear. Between Iran and China, they well have the capabilities to have that kind of intelligence. And it may be that nobody was killed just because of the time of day. It was just, may have been just luck that more people weren't killed or people weren't killed. What you got?
Okay. The guy from, what was his name? Jim again from Pittsburgh is saying, if Jimmy Carter could take away limousines from elected officials, can't Trump take away military grade weapons from federal? Whoops, we lost Larry again. Don't know what happened. So we'll just hold on a second till he comes back so I can read that question to him. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know what. Okay, if Jimmy Carter could take away limousines from elected officials, can't Trump take away all military grade weapons from federal agents and make them carry revolvers?
I would suppose he could, but I shouldn't think he would. I don't know the intent of the question. I don't know why we would want to disarm federal officials. We're already outgunned by the bad guys. So bringing federal officials down to simply carrying pistols would simply increase the unbalance. Thank you, Cindy. Cindy said 5. That would simply increase the imbalance from the bad guys to the good guys.
Yeah. Okay, Sandy, not the one that we normally hear from, says, Hillary did an interview a couple days ago and seemed very concerned about Pizzagate stories. Do you think something is breaking soon?
No. Well, now let me say this. Maybe in the alternative media out there somewhere, there might be some undercurrents going on or some things going on, but from the Department of Justice, no. Not related to Pizzagate, no.
Okay, Paul said in time past, when a president would go to the Oval Office and make an appeal speech to the American people that gave him a bump in popular opinion, he thinks that would be President Trump. Now, of course, we know he's doing his rallies versus Oval Office talks.
Well, hold on. Paul, the difference in today and in past times. Oh, thank you for Betty. She sent 20. Difference in today versus past times. The public was not as polarized as it is today. So a president could go on with an Oval Office speech and calm down or bolster up, the people and explain what's going on. Here's the problem today. If President Trump decided to do an Oval Office speech, there's a high probability ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, and MSNBC won't carry it. They won't even carry it. They don't have to carry it, and they probably would not. The other problem is half of this country hates his guts. There's nothing he could go on and say that's going to sway them in any other direction. It's just not going to happen. Now, it would be good if it could happen towards getting more information to his soft base. But again, I don't believe the networks would let him on. I don't believe they would put it up. Used to a presidential speech out of the Oval Office was a big deal. All the networks carried it. They blocked out all regular programming, et cetera, et cetera. That won't happen today. Don't forget, Paul, the media is in on this coup. They are an active participant in this coup, and they're not going to do anything that would shore up or help President Trump in any way. And that's why President Trump has adopted the strategy he has, both with his Twitter and with going around and having his rallies. What you got?
I repeat. Why haven't they arrested Hillary yet? They have the frazzled drip video. This Reeves says he seated himself when the child let out a blood-curdling scream. He had to cut it off.
Now what?
There's a video on the dark web of, I believe this is what Reeves is referring to, of Hillary and Huma Abedin with an 8-year-old child that they are torturing, and he's seen part of it, but once the child started screaming, he stopped watching it. And so he's wondering, when with such a horrible thing there that the public knows about, why hasn't she been arrested yet?
Now, number one, if that were true, now remember, we're talking about the internet today. We're talking about all kinds of trick stuff they can do with the internet. I have not seen, this is the first I've even heard of this video. But if that were true and there were an actual video of that going on, I assure you folks, I promise you, William Barr would have her butt arrested in a half a second. Do not be deceived. Barr and Durham, they are inclined, I want to use that word, they are inclined to want to prosecute Hillary for wrongdoing. So if that existed and it were real, I assure you within half a minute, she would be indicted. You know, I think, Mary Ellen, I need to once again kind of give a little lesson, if you will, about what's going on. Since everybody's concerned, as usual, as always, and we should be, about will Comey be prosecuted? Will Hillary be prosecuted? Will Obama? The list goes on and on. Remember this: William Barr, or any attorney general, any prosecutor, even a good one, any prosecutor, you have to have a statute. Bottom line, you've got to have a specific crime that you can prove that they have broken. The problem with Comey and his group, you know, these are the guys that specialize in arresting people, seeing all of the different crimes and working everything. So they're very, very astute, y'all. They're very astute in the letter of the law. And they are the kind of criminal that you...
Oh, we lost you, Larry. Oh my goodness. Come back, come back. Well, I know what he's going to say. He's going to say they're the kind of criminal that know how to dance up to the line of legal or illegal without crossing the line, because they know where the line is, because it's all about the letter of the law, not about what's moral.
All right, we're getting knocked off regularly today, so apparently we're talking about stuff. Where I was at, these are the kind of criminals that are the worst kind. They know exactly what they can do, how far they can go, and not cross the line and actually break the law. Now, there's another thing I heard Trey Gowdy say, and I don't know when I've heard him say it. Maybe it was today, yesterday, whenever I saw a little clip with him. But he did make a good point. He was saying that there's a problem in that we believe that someone being guilty of something, therefore there's got to be prosecution. When actually there is moral liability. I mean, morally, you know, these guys have broken every kind of law there is morally. But maybe they have skirted the statutory law. Maybe they've skirted it. And you would think there would be some penalty in between putting them in jail and letting them walk because they just violated the moral statute. But the moral statute can't put you in jail. It's just you're doing wrong. Now, having said all of that, I'm not telling you that Barr does not have a case against Comey or any of them. I'm not saying he doesn't have a case that he can take to court against a crime they've broken. He does. He does. But I hate to always fall back on it. So even if we pass the criteria of them actually violating a statute to the point to where they can be prosecuted, we're sitting here with the courts of jurisdiction that will be heavily rigged against us. And there's a high probability in that kind of structure that when he does prosecute, if he does, in this environment, he's destined to lose. They get away with it. That's why Comey and McCabe and all these creeps are so damn arrogant. You don't think they don't know the numbers, the percentage of the jury pool that's tainted as such? You don't think they don't know those numbers? Of course they do. And they're walking around rubbing it in our face. They're rubbing it in Barr's face. They're rubbing it in Trump's face. Ha, 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 we broke the law. We did this, that, and the other to you in the country. And guess what? You can't do anything to us. And this is one of the reasons they're able to do that. But There's a surprise coming. I hope. I hope. What you got?
Okay, give me a second. Hang on. Let's see.
While she's looking, y'all, if anybody else can help, I need it desperately today. You hear it in my voice, I'm sure. I'm just really having trouble. It's kind of important. All right, what you got?
How did the drones evade the US-made systems?
Are you saying how did a drone ostensibly coming from the Houthis evade the radar screen around Saudi Arabia? Is that, I assume that's the question. The answer to that is I do not know. I'm as puzzled by that as you are, listener. I truly am. But another thing I got to tell you, we're talking about Saudi Arabia. We're talking about the Middle East. In the Middle East, you don't know who's standing by you. You don't know who's working, say, radar at that moment. You don't know if they planned it to where they had a specific person to work the radar at the time of the strike, which they probably did. But I can't tell you with certainty I know the answer because I do not. What you got?
Okay, Jim, my opinion is the deep state is leading us to war to bring foreign troops here to overthrow the country. This has been planned for decades. Your opinion?
Well, my opinion is you're probably right. You see, we have at present some 250,000 communist troops just 90 miles away from us. They can be here in significant amounts in probably a couple, 3 hours. But they're probably planning to not use those at the present time because I think even the progressives are shocked how well half of this country has bought in to their crap. I think they are actually, I believe they're actually shocked at how half of this country has absolutely just fallen for socialism. Part of it's not really for socialism. Part of it's just the hatred for President Trump. And remember, when you say President Trump, I've told you this since the beginning, take his name out and say us. There is a sizable portion of our country, our population, folks that hate the very ground you and I walk on because we believe in Christian moral principles and we do not believe in socialism and we don't believe that there's a money tree in the back of the White House that, you know, you can shake and have all the money in the world and nobody has to work. We don't believe that. And they hate us for it. What you got, ma'am?
I'm going to interrupt the questions to tell you there is a video out there that looks like it's sung by the Beatles. They sound like the Beatles, and they have wigs and stuff to make them look like the four Beatles. And they're talking about how you don't have to work. We're going to pay for your college. Everything's free. But here's Bob. He stayed in his parents' basement for years, and he went to college. He paid off his college, and he's got a job. So we're going to take his money and give it to you, and you're just going to live an easy life. And then, of course, you've got all the crowd of young people screaming with delight, like they did with the Beatles. It's really pretty funny. And even was Ed Sullivan even comes on at the beginning and the end and screamed, "Communists!"
Yeah. Well, you know, right now on television, there are tens of thousands of people, I guess it's worldwide, tens of thousands of people holding a climate change march. Climate change march. Now, it's incredible to believe in America. I don't know where this is. I don't know if it's taking place in Europe or whatever, but we got a bunch of them here in this country today. doing it. You know, it's hard to believe that people would be so incredibly hooked on that. You know, guys, it just, if you're just rational, I'm not saying that we're not polluting the world. I'm not saying the world couldn't come to an end because of all of the carbon gas emission that's going up there. But what we can't seem to get across to the American people is we're not the sum of the world. China produces every day 100 times more pollutants in the air than we do in a month. This entire nation in a month, they do it every day. Then you take India, you take all of the other nations in the world. We're just one piece of all that stuff going up into the atmosphere. Plus, I hate to say it, and I may be wrong, y'all would know better than I, but there still does not seem to be absolute, guaranteed scientific proof that this is actually happening. Now, I'm not saying they don't have a bunch of scientists that say it, but you'll notice when their scientists say it's happening, that it's occurring, they don't back it up with statistical data. They don't. They show you the icebergs melting in Alaska, et cetera, et cetera. The folks, I'm telling you, we can't do anything in America right now. We can do nothing to save the world alone. And then they hit us with this saying, well, but we can make China. We can't make China do a thing. We can't. We can't make India do a thing. We can't make Russia do a thing. We can't make Vietnam do a thing. We can't make hokey pokey country, wherever it is, do a thing. But it just goes to show you how warped 50% of the population in this country is right now, thanks to the completion of the cycle of the first complete generation of people coming of age in the political world that have gone from the first day in school to the last day they got out in a social engineering program, better known as brainwashing. What you got?
When is Trump going to start letting out some of the classified information he said he was going to release?
This I know a little bit about, and I believe my opinion, but it's more than just my opinion. He will at the appropriate time. He is not going to release anything, I don't believe necessarily, my opinion, prior to Horowitz's FISA report coming out and Barr and Durham coming out with their position in a couple of 3 cases, such as Comey, such as McCabe, etc. He's not going to just bring it out now. What else?
Let's see. There's more talk about the video that they're claiming with Hillary and Huma Abedin, saying that it was on Huma's husband Anthony Weiner's laptop as life insurance policy. Somebody's friend in the homicide department, detective department in New York, saw the video and ran from the room vomiting, and is being treated for PTSD.
These are all anecdotal stories about this tape that may or may not exist. I have told you, I don't know about that tape. I didn't know about it until Mary Ellen told me of it. But I can tell you, my opinion in the realm of realistic reality If such a video exists and it's authenticated, Barr would indict her and Aberdeen in a heartbeat. He would have no choice. He wouldn't even stutter. And to be honest, even if he was a deep stater, he would prosecute it. Remember, Hillary is not that, she's not that well loved in the Democratic Party anymore, certainly not in the progressives. I don't think y'all understand. The Progressive Council, the DNCs, they all those people, they are supposed to be empowered now. We are supposed to be under the full throes of their socialist planned government now. And we're not. And in their minds, we're not for one reason and one reason only: Hillary. And that group of people, folks, have a very long memory, and they don't ever forgive. They don't forget, and they don't forgive. So I would be careful. This is one of the things that I talk to y'all about all the time. I would be careful in our group having anything to do, telling people, passing that on to other people, because it makes us look stupid. It really does. What else have you read?
Couldn't we prosecute by military tribunal since the FISA was treason?
No. No. Not yet. It would, first off, if we can even go the military tribunal, it can only be to those that have taken the oath to protect the Constitution of the United States of America, which means law enforcement, president, etc. And before it could even be brought up to a military tribunal for a possible transfer of the case, it has to be denied with cause from the civilian court. So, no, none of that's needed as of now. And I assure you, if it is denied, if we can't get justice through our judicial system, all right, if we can't get justice through our judicial.
Oh my word, they don't like Larry talking about any of this. It's true. I'm Trey Gowdy. Larry has never trusted Trey Gowdy. That's why he said at the beginning of the program today that he was pleased and actually agreed with something Gowdy had said recently. So hopefully Larry realizes that he's not ready. He's had a lung disease for quite a while. He's had some treatment. The tumors he used to have, as far as I know, are all gone, have not come back. I do not know. I have not tried into his medical because I'm very much a believer in his and privacy and right to privacy. So I don't ask a lot of questions, but you can hear in his voice that he is really having a hard time talking today. And he's had treatment that has gone a long way in helping, but he's still got a long way to go.
Okay. What part anyway, what I was saying, and I don't know when I got knocked off, the chances of finding a military court with officers to serve on the court, if this thing goes under, if Trump loses, every officer, every military guy that's still hanging around, they're going to run for cover. And they're going to make the 92% grand jury pool look sick compared to what they'll be. There won't be justice there. Trump loses, there won't be justice anymore. What else?
Didn't Obama give the American drone technology? Wasn't it he the one that gave the American drone technology to Iran?
Yes.
Are there underground?
Clinton, let's make it clear. Clinton gave China the rights to manufacture the computers for all of our fly-by-wire aircraft. Still to this day, fly-by-wire aircraft. Every plane, all of our most advanced planes, I believe China could push a button and screw up every one of them. Clinton gave North Korea, instead of giving them a nuclear system that could never be weaponized, he gave them the system that could be weaponized, that could make the plutonium cell or things. And then Clinton also gave North Korea the technology to miniaturize the nuclear warheads. And then Obama gave Iran much of our drone technology. So how do you like that for a trifecta?
Sounds like traitors to me.
Uh-huh.
Do you think there are underground tunnels, and what do they do?
I think there are underground tunnels in reference to what? Yes, there are underground tunnels, but there are vast reasons for them, so I don't know in what area you're talking.
And I think in saying what do they do there, I think this person is probably asking what's their purpose.
Well, most of the tunneling or caves, tunnels that I know about are simply there in case of a nuclear disaster or war, or an earthquake blowing up. I mean, that volcano under Yellowstone blowing up. That's what most of them are for. Today there's a lot of interest in Area 51. Let me make it very clear. Area 51, for as long as I remember and can remember, that has been an area where we develop our futuristic aircraft and military technology. Now I'm going to tell you a story. Mary Ellen knows it, but I'm going to tell it to you. I know a guy. I know him very, very well. That in the mid to late 70s was a part of a special forces unit that was sent to Area 51 as a part of an exercise to handle the possibility of an alien spaceship crashing or whatever. Now, he claims, and I know him well enough to believe him, and Mary Ellen, you know who I'm talking about, but he claims that there he saw they had some aliens there. They were actually in, I guess, formaldehyde tubes. And there was a little one, and then there was a tall one. I think they called the little one gray, and then the tall one they called straights. And the whole point was to teach this unit, in case they ever had to fight these things, to learn their anatomy and learn what it was all about. The interesting part of the story was that these things that people see, that they call these aliens, that people talk about and they draw the pictures of, with the big eyes and such, what this guy was told was that those things were actually biological robots. They didn't have mouths. I can't remember if they had ears, but they had an organ kind of, I guess, that served the capacity of the heart, and where it was kind of located near where the heart would be. But they didn't have places to go to the bathroom. right? So, I mean, that's crazy. But what he was told was that they figured since they were having to travel such great distances that they would be gone for such long times that even their race could not make the trip. So they created these things to make these trips. And that actually, he says, existed. And I'm sure it still exists to this day. So based off what he told me and knowing him as I do, I believe, yes, somewhere out there are these things. There are, and I would imagine they would be kept at Area 51 because that is our most secret military center in this country. It's where all of our new technology is being done, or a lot of it, most of it. But then again, I say this. God is the God of the universe. So whatever, if there is anything up there, God made it. They didn't make us. We didn't come from them. So y'all know my position, and I will say this, if spacemen want to land on this planet, they need to land in my backyard. Because if they do, I'll never tell a soul. I have told this country one time something that people didn't want to hear about, and I'm speaking of the Clintons and what it's done to me and my family. I don't ever want to do that again. So aliens ought to be landing in my backyard because I'll keep my mouth shut this time. What you got, Mary Ellen? That was my little story in honor of Area 51 Day.
Okay, if they have Hillary's deleted emails, do they show she was using the server to sell secrets to other governments?
I cannot answer that. I will say this. If I knew the answer, I could not answer it. If I don't know the answer, I could not answer it. So I cannot answer it. And I'm not being ugly. I'm not trying to be cute. I'm just being honest. But I will say this. I'll say this. Hillary is in trouble. She is safe a great deal having to do with these emails because of the perpetuity waivers she was granted by Comey and Loretta Lynch. But not everything is she off the hook with.
So Pam asked, why isn't that treason to give away our technology?
Well, to be honest, this is back to that letter of the law versus the moral law, right? Morally, to me, it is treason. It was treason. I'm not saying it hadn't been done by others with different types of stuff. Maybe, maybe other presidents have done it, but this is that moral versus legal. The president can do that. When he's president, he has, I guess, the right to do that. And especially since every one of those actions, the only one I don't know about was Obama's, but every action Clinton took was known by Congress. It was not secret.
Wow.
I don't remember if Congress was,
Couldn't they have blocked it?
They could have.
And didn't.
Sure. And they didn't. But once again, if they had blocked it, then you'd be thinking along the lines that we do have a government in Washington that's looking out for us and not themselves. They didn't. So that ought to tell you whose side they're on.
Okay, a question from Ken in Pittsburgh. Sorry, I called him Jim earlier. It's Ken from Pittsburgh. Is the fall from power of Benjamin Netanyahu the end of the Trump-Kushner peace plan? And if so, will Trump lose the support of Zionist Jews and evangelical Christians?
It is, it is bad, Ken, for those reasons, and it's bad for us, additionally, to show that all of this negative press and all of these attacks against Trump parallel the same thing with Netanyahu. And Netanyahu, as far as Israeli people are concerned, should have been the most re-electable ever. I mean, he should have been. But you see the power of this constant rhetoric, this constant media barrage, this constant attack on President Trump as it was on him. So we can look at that election and see for ourselves that Trump may be in trouble, just like Netanyahu.
Yeah.
And I'll remind you that that vote in Israel closely mimics our situation in America. You know, here, this country is just about perfectly split, 50-50, 50% hate Trump, 50% love him. In Israel, the vote was almost 50-50. He didn't lose, he just didn't win. And by not winning, he lost seats.
Okay. O'Toole asks, is Trey Gowdy the Rottweiler with false teeth, or has he been resurrected as an American patriot? And Ken responded to him, Trey Gowdy, Ted Cruz, Jim Jordan have always been grandstanding, teethless Rottweiler politicians.
Well, I would certainly say for Trey Gowdy, he's the Rottweiler without teeth. Jordan, I've worked with, and I believe in him. Ted Cruz, I don't have any, interaction with him, so I don't know other than what I've told y'all before. I'm concerned about him because of what his wife said when he was running for president, that he was going to be the first president of this Central American country. Now we've got gunshots in a mall in Illinois. So here we go with another shooting incident that's going to add fuel to the fire of gun control. Isn't that just great?
They're going to keep doing it, and the more Illinois is working hard on the Democrats' agenda to
sure enough
send us into socialism.
All right, guys, we've got about 2 minutes left for the hour. We can stay longer if we need to, but I've got to ask y'all to help. A few people have helped so far, but I really need your help today. Can you please? I've got things I've got to do that benefit all of us. I've just got to do it, and I've got to be able to do it. So, Mary Ellen, would you give the PayPal addressy thing, please?
Yeah, and we're going to have to stop at this point. His PayPal is nicholslive@aol.com. The PayPal account is nicholslive@aol.com. His last name only, nicholslive@aol.com. That is the fastest way to get money to him. The website nicholslive.com has a link to PayPal. There is his address if you want to send cash in the mail. My cell phone number is there if you need another way to donate. Larry, a check came in the mail, and I have time to run to the bank. I'm not in any state to be going out in public, but I can run to the bank and get that in the bank so that I can send that to you. If anybody can match what's been donated already, please do. And I think I've got 100 or 150 to send to you if I can get it to the bank real quick.
All right, folks. Well, I'm going to have to go. I'm starting to get sicker. So if you can help, please do. And I will see you, I hope, good Lord willing, things don't get worse, Monday. Have a good day.
Thanks, Larry, very much. We're also facing the weekend right now, and that means Saturday and Sunday. Larry still needs what he needs every day, Monday through Friday. So if there's anybody out there that has a chunk of money or knows somebody that they can ask, please do. He is, you can hear, really hurting today, and he's been really sick today. Now, whether he's picking something up when he goes and has to sit in the waiting room, or whether this is just part of the process. The doctors think the lack of consistent funding this last couple of weeks, as well, especially this week, the lack of consistent funding this week has him off schedule. And if any of you take pain medication, you realize that if the pain gets ahead of you, you're in big trouble. And if you stay ahead of the situation, you can function. But if your illness gets ahead of you, you're laid low pretty far, pretty fast, and it is much harder to come back and recover from it. And it usually takes more medicine than normal if it gets away from you. So that's the situation he's been dealing with this week. It got ahead of him instead of his being able to stay ahead of the situation. And I don't know details, folks. I can't share more because I don't know, because I haven't asked. He hasn't offered, and I don't pry into anything, frankly. I really don't. He tells me what he wants me to know, and that's where it stays. I don't call him unless there's a real emergency that I think he has to know something. Sometimes somebody will call me, and we've done a three-way because it was just something that I felt I needed to make sure he knew about it. Other people have called him, and I know there are people that call a lot, and I know when he's really struggling, he doesn't take calls from anybody, including me. And or if he's on the phone with doing something really important, then he can't pick up the phone because he's working. And in spite of his condition, he is expected to still do these teleconferences that he mentioned that he was supposed to have done earlier today and had to cancel because he didn't have the medication that would give him clarity of mind. So please remember, I know a lot of us don't have the money to help. I know that. And a lot of you have told me your situations, and I get it. But if you can't give, you can pray. And we need to appeal to heaven to provide, that God would either completely heal Larry or keep the funds coming in so that he can keep going. But to be going and working as hard as he is under the conditions of his body is just, I do not know how he does it. And I don't know how the people who are there with him cope. And I know it's been very hard, even on medical staff, to have to deal with what he suffers when he can't get the treatment that he needs. And I know I don't know, I suspect, this is my opinion, this is my guess, that the hospital has done so much for him that they can't do any more at this point. And so he's left depending on us. And so anything you can do, greatly appreciated. All the information for donating is under the video. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye. Have a great weekend. And please keep Larry in your prayer and do anything and everything you can for him. And thank you very much. Bye.